Why do they never go in for me?
Hey music lovers! Yes, I am back again with another video. Aren't you all happy? So today I'm going to carry on with a bit more British indie. So last video I talked about and showed a load of records by bands that were considered to be grebo. Now, they weren't the only bands that were kind of incorporating a lot of classic rock sounds into their stuff. Whether it was like Buzzcocky, whether it was, well, not the Buzzcocks were classic rock, but they were kind of that, they were punk, but they were using the guitars anyway. So Gay Bikers using the psychedelic stuff, Crazy Head doing the garage stuff, and Zodiac just being a complete biker. Well, there are other bands. Now, I referenced an article by Mick Mercer in who wrote in Melody Maker and wrote the first kind of article about grebo, and he interviewed some of the people like Anderson from Crazy Head and other people. I think he also interviewed one of the others, somebody's records I'm going to show today. But the one band that got really name checked in that article were this lot, especially this album. Now, they were never really grebo. This was just an out and out rock record, but they were kind of figureheads of that kind of scene, that kind of rock, biker metal. I don't know what you want to call it. So Ian Astbury especially was seen as a kind of figurehead. There was quite a bit of rivalry between the Cult and Zodiac, which I'll talk about later. Yeah, it's kind of strange that I don't know whether it was a real rivalry or whether it was just Zodiac Mindwalk trying to drum up some trade. I don't know, but this is obviously incorporating the sounds of a lot of classic rock, especially AC/DC. There's a cover of Born to Be Wild on here. So yeah, the Cult was seen. I would definitely, around here, I would definitely put the Cult, not definitely a grebo band, but like on the fringes of that grebo scene. Definitely a lot of bands took their lead from the Cult on this album. Especially some of the bands I'm going to show. But this is sort of emblematic of a lot of bands that kind of turned their amps up and stopped being quite so gothy or fey or indie and just kind of rocked out a bit. So there we go. So Cult Electric, definitely a major player on that kind of heavy rock scene, played by indie bands. Made even so by the presence of Haggis, who became their live bassist on the Electric tour. Saw them at Hammersmith in, I think it was March '87, I think. Haggis had already been in The Love Reaction, played with Zodiac Mindwarp. He also later went on to form a brilliant band. Well, they made one brilliant album called Four Horsemen. And their album, Nobody Said It Would Be Easy, which is a rocking album. I'll have to dig that out sometime. Now a doctor in America, I do believe. So there you go. Talking of Zodiac, he moved away from the kind of grebo scene, kind of definitely left it behind, and he produced this. Well, him and the band, but it was basically him. So this is Tattooed Beat Messiah, their debut album. This is basically a metal album, really. Production is really polished on this. I do prefer the earlier stuff they did on Food. I think I just like the greasiness of it. this one, I haven't had this out for years. So it did come with a lovely poster of the man. There we go. Never put that up. But on here you had classic tracks, full of single entendre. Well, they're not really jokes, just single entendres all over the place. The best known song is Prime Mover, which I have on a 12-inch. I might show that on one of my 12x12s, I'm not sure. But not only that, things like Backseat Education, Skullspark Joker, Let's Break the Law, Driving on Holy Gasoline, Planet Girl. It's a great rocking album from start to finish, but more of a metal album, really. Also had various gothy bands who started going heavy. This, by the way, this is just a smattering of records by bands that did this. There seemed to be quite a lot of bands going heavy, artists going heavy, like Julian Cope released a rock album on St. Julian. Other people were just getting the guitars up. And I don't know whether it was a kind of reaction to maybe the goth years, maybe the C86. I don't know whether they're just cranking those amps up. One of the goth bands that went like that were Balaam and the Angel. So this is their 1980, I think it's 88, this one. Oh, it says 87. Here they go all out rock. There's no goth, there's maybe one or two little guitar fills here and there, but basically this is a rock album. And it is a pretty good rock album. Things like I'll Show You Something Special, Live Free or Die. If you ever see this, because I'm sure you can probably pick this up for really cheap. If you fancy a decent rock album, I would go with this because it's actually a really good album. There you go, looking fairly Grebo-esque. And there's the bikers. Leather jackets, rock shirts, long hair. There we go. Yeah, the vocalist was oh god, what was his name? I've completely forgotten the guy's name now, and it's not on here. But the vocalist never really struck me as a brilliant goth vocalist. His voice was too maybe high in pitch to really cut it as a goth vocalist, but he can certainly ball out a good rock song. I really like this. I listened to it again a couple of days ago, and it was like, oh, this actually rocks quite a lot. Right, another goth band, who I don't know if I actually have any records by. I might have some CDs. Who turned their amp guitars up was the March Violets. Not really well known. I think the best known song was a thing called Snake Dance, I think. But Simon Denby, who was in the March Violets, changed his name and became known as Simon Detroit. And he formed a band with a member of Skeletal Family, the drummer, I do believe, from Skeletal Family, and formed the Batfish Boys. Now, I don't have the first two albums, but I did pick this up. I probably picked this up about 88, 87, 88. I think it came out in 87. Guitars to the max. That kind of grungy sound, not clean sound. Definite biker rock. This is the Bomb song, as you can see. Terrific stuff. Just really, really good rock music. Fitted right in with sort of bikers and Crazy Head and stuff. Great stuff, really. And I did pick up their third album when they changed their name to Batfish, and this is on GWR Records, which I think Motorhead were on at the same time, I think, but more of the same stuff. Really, really good hard rock. Things like Velcro Beach, put me back together again, Super Slab. So yeah, they were getting back to that kind of heavier sound, and just having a laugh with it, to be honest. I really loved all these records. Now some of the indie bands so it wasn't just gothy bands that did that, there were indie bands as well. And probably the most surprising band, and they got slated for it, was this lot. So this is Primal Scream. This is their second album called Primal Scream. And as you can see from the cover, it's growing their hair out. Bobby Gillespie was growing his bob out. They'd moved on from trying to be basically the Stones around Aftermath and incorporate a load of Bird stuff. To trying to sound, well, half the record at least, trying to sound a bit more like the MC5. This got pretty heavily slated when it came out. It was considered to be going up a cul-de-sac, and it just showed the attitude to a lot of these bands, and to rock in general by the Yankees, by Melody Maker and NME. This rock was seen as a step backwards for a lot of the writers, but I loved it. So on here you've got things like Ivy, 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 She Power, Gimme Gimme Teenage Head, I'm Losing More Than I'll Ever Have, which is best known as being the basis for the song Loaded. And it's just a fantastic kind of Stonesy Faces kind of song that just builds and builds and builds into a coda that just pays off completely. It's just such a brilliant song. And then on the rest of the album is the 4 songs. They're much quiet. I think they were described as torch songs, but I don't see how. But they much more introspective. Things like You're Just Dead Skin to Me, which is kind of a song of loss, I guess. Things like You're Just Too Dark to Care, which is very much as though old Bobby had been listening to Big Star when he wrote that. Kill the King, which is quite psychedelic actually, lots of backwards guitar. This really deserves a reappraisal, this album, because I think it's a fantastic album, absolutely brilliant record. Really varied along the way. They kind of alternate the heavier rock songs with the quieter introspective songs. I'm Losing More Than I'll Ever Have ends side 1 on such a high note, and then Jesus Can't Save Me, which is probably a run through, a sort of a prototype for maybe something like Moving On Up, a kind of some of the Damage, that kind of stuff on Screamadelica. Absolutely brilliant album. Bikers are back. So there you got a load of different shots of that. Now, one of these indie videos that I've been doing wouldn't be complete without a mention of this band, and they kind of, I don't know whether they really did just jump almost on anything that was happening at the time and try their, you see, they could be negative, they could be seen as bandwagon jumpers, but on a plus side, they could be seen as exploring different kinds of music. Maybe they just couldn't decide on what style suited them, because obviously this band started as a C86 band, became a baggy band, but there was a period, 87, 88, where they became a rock band. So this is the Soup Dragons, still the same lineup, and this is their, I think this is their first proper album together. This is called This Is Our Art. The cover is a piece of art by the drummer. I think he's a drummer. Quite almost Mannix-esque, that is. Useless, boring, impotent, elitist, and very, very beautiful. Love that cover. I absolutely love it. That would make a brilliant t-shirt. So on here, they try out a real hodgepodge of styles. There's a few tracks that hark back to their kind of more indie style, which is like Soft As Your Face, Turning Stone. But on here you've got a lot of tracks which really quite heavily rock out. There's some psych stuff, psych poppy stuff, like Kingdom Shares and the Magnetic Head. You've got things like Passion Protein, not Turning Stone, Vacate My Space, where they really do rock out, and it's obvious that, especially with the next two records that I'm going to show, that they were listening to heavier stuff. Whether they were just following in the footsteps of everybody else at the time, I don't know, but there we go. So this is another great record. Another band that I don't think anybody, apart from their baggy stuff, anybody shows on the VC, but this is a great album. They followed that up with two 12-inches where they really did become, the guitars just came out. They abandoned any pretext of like jangle. No, it just indie was out the window. So the first 12-inch, I think released in 80, it might have been 87, probably 88 was this one, which is Backwards Dog. They did do a version of this on their baggy album Love God, but this is the out and out rock version. Guitars to the fore, great song. B-sides Super Cherry, Burnout and Kill 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 Me. Super Cherry is it actually sounds like a track off the Ciccone Youth album that Sonic Youth put together. I think it's on that album, but there's a track on that album where they have two girls talking about Can or something, where it's just two girls on over a discordant guitar noise, dissonant guitar noise on the phone call. Well, it's the same sort of thing, except it's basically more riffy. Great pop, great rock songs, really good. And they followed that up with another one called Crotch Deep Trash, more of the same sort of stuff. Just great rock records, really good. It's a shame they didn't get going that way, because I think they probably would have become more successful. Well, who knows? I suppose they did become more successful by jumping on the baggy train. But anyway, I was kind of disappointed they didn't keep up with this. There are also a few bands around this time. I think maybe I don't know whether it was a music press thing or just publicists getting their bands in the papers, but there were a few bands who came along new. I'm thinking of a band called The Mothers, who turned out to be a damn squib, and this lot, who are really good. This is a band called Underneath What, and the album is called What Is It? So they started out on an indie label somewhere, can't remember. Produced a few decent songs, and then they got snapped up by WEA. I think not that these bands necessarily sold much. I mean, the Cult were probably the only big sellers of this lot. Like Primal Scream weren't successful yet. Balaam and the Angel didn't sell anything. Bomb Party didn't sell anything. Soup Dragons didn't really sell anything till they joined Baggy. But for some reason there was a few bands doing the rounds, and the majors got behind them. This is one of them. This is more laid back, kind of almost psyche rock, a bit swampy in places, but some great songs on here, like an Animal, Firebomb Telecom, really good stuff. Their Heads Exploded. So I think So Mickey Berenier, not Mickey Berenier, Andy Berenier. I don't think he's any relation to Mickey Berenier, but I've no idea. He was an American who came to London, found two side guys, and yeah, this is a great album, a forgotten album. I don't think anybody's ever seen this before, shown this before. So definitely on the Psyche side. I'm going to show the label on this one because it's quite a nice custom label on there. So we got band there, and then on the other side, silhouette of Andy. Yeah, it was a good record. So all these records kind of came out just before grunge. I think it was a time when alternative music in Britain was floundering about for the next big scene. Baggy was just about to hit. C86 was petering out. Shoegaze hadn't happened yet, or was just about to happen. So yeah, it's kind of like a sort of a looking back to go forward type of era. But a lot of good records came out of it, as per usual. I think any time period you're going to find good records, even now. Yeah. Anyway, so thanks for listening to me drone on about those particular bands. Maybe some of them are new. Obviously, the Cult are not new to anybody. Everybody's heard of them. But some of the others, yeah, check those records out. If you see a copy of Balaam and the Angel, if you see a copy of Underneath What, check them out. They're good rock records. And the Soup Dragon stuff is great as well. Okay, well that's it for now. Be another British indie video soon. I know exactly where I'm going with this next, and very soon, finally, we're going to get to the video, the records that made me want to start this off. The Shoegazers, going to finally get there soon. So, take it easy, everybody, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.